Happy Monday, diehards, MMA fans, degenerate gamblers. How's everybody doing today? I am pumped to be back here in my usual seat for a big old pay-per-view UFC 289 fight week. Hope everybody had an awesome weekend, a great holiday week last week. We are coming off maybe one of the most insane UFC fight nights we've had in a long time. Lots of weird results. Everything that everybody thought was going to happen went the other way. Guys that should have finished didn't. People won when they weren't supposed to. It was pure insanity last week, but we scraped out a profit. 175 units, baby. The heater continues on this podcast. We are having ourselves one hell of a 2023. We crossed the Mendoza line. We are halfway through the year, so now we just got to keep it hot. We got to keep it rolling. Welcome in, everybody, to the show. We have got Mike Harvey making sure everybody knows he was first in the chat and that Kai got robbed. I can't say I can argue too much with either of those statements. Mushroom in the house. My guy Dream, VGO, Air Dog. We got Jacob. We got Colby, the Grateful Dude, Raw Torque, the usuals. There's Evan. What's up, everybody? How are y'all doing? As usual, do me a favor, hit the like button if you're hanging out here with us live tonight. I have got one hell of a guest for you guys for this big pay-per-view card. You may know this man from the MMA Odds Breaker. You might also just see his tweets pop up on your feed on Twitter or Instagram pretty regularly, announcing some awesome fights that you couldn't be more excited about. A man I've been following for a long time and listening to, but haven't had the chance to talk fights with yet. It's none other than Big Marcel himself. How you doing, Marcel? Thank you for coming on the show, man.
What's up, Clint? Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, man. Finally talking to each other, right? Via whatever, you know. I wouldn't say this is not in person, but it's like, you know, talking to each other, not via chat, but like this. And yeah, man, looking forward to it. Really happy you invited me on your show, and I follow you for some time, you know, and I like you a lot. So yeah, looking forward to it, man.
Feelings mutual, man. Back at you. I always love these first time live type of situations. It's a lot of fun connecting with people. It's just different, man. Like you talk with people like on Twitter and Instagram, and you kind of know who they are, but it's so different when you actually get a chance to like go face to face and chat and talk with them.
Yeah, it's like that. Exactly like that.
You gotta love it, man. How was your week last week as far as like predictions, or if you bet anything? What a weird card, man. Did you see any of those curveballs coming?
Oh, man, I really bet pigs on the prelims, dude. I absolutely didn't see Blackshear winning against Lacerda. That, for example, maybe many people saw that. I didn't see that happening. There were a lot of odd fights I didn't saw happening. You know, definitely the Malarkey against Naimov was like a huge upset. I mean, Malarkey was the biggest favorite on the card. Great win for Naimov. Main card I did pretty much better. You know, I had one bad pick there. I had Pineda over Caceres. But and actually, I should have had the main event right. But yeah, I had it right. Yeah.
Okay, so we don't want to tangent too hard. But what did you think of the whole main event situation? I thought you could score the fight 3-2 either way, but the only way you could score it 3-2 for Albazi is if you gave him 1, 2, and 3. I felt like 2 and 3 were close rounds, so you could see it for Albazi. I think Kai Kara-France deserved to get the win, but that round 4 being scored for Albazi, that ruins everything. It's like you can never give rounds 4 or 5 to Albazi, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that's it. You know, it's exactly what you said, man. I don't judge the judge who gave a 3-2 to Albazi if you pick 1, 2, and 3 for Albazi, it's still questionable, but I wouldn't do anything about it. But Chris Lee, who got round 4 for Albazi, that's crazy to me. Personally scored at round 1, Cara France, round 4, Cara France, and round 5. I had 2 and 3 for Albazi. First round was kind of close. Still think Cara France should have got that one. So robbery is a little bit strong, but I understand where people are coming from. And I think the guy who deserved to win didn't got the win. And but man, I said to Adam an hour ago, how many times we have been talking about judging in MMA, man, as of lately. It's pretty much every single card. We have 1 or 2 fights that many people think like that guy should have won, and then the other guy who gets the win. You know what I mean? And like Adam as well, if like 100 people, you have 100 people and 99 people say that guy won, and that one person says the other guy wins, I mean, unless it's Albert Einstein, I mean, what the hell? You know what I mean? And but you cannot hold these people accountable for some reason. It just sucks, it just sucks. And the thing that bothers me the most is that you got half your paycheck from it. You know what I mean? That's really bad.
Kai Kara on what? He went on the MMA Hour today. It said it cost him $100K, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't imagine, man. Just some dude sitting in a chair says that you lost the fight and you lose $100,000. I feel so bad for some of these fighters in those kinds of spots, man. That's terrible.
And then after that, you don't get any explanation. You should just do it with it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. I mean,
got to just get back in there and fight again.
Yeah.
Brutal, man. All right. Well, that was definitely something. Everybody, we got the viewers pulling in here. We're all the way up to 76 already. Thank you all so much. And Mushroom's got the right idea here. Hit the like button for me. We are going to go ahead and break down this whole card for you here for this big old UFC pay-per-view. Kicking your night off with Diana Belbita taking on Maria Oliveira. Of course, these lines are powered by and brought to you by Superbook Sports. This one was a pick'em just a couple days ago, Marcel, and it looks like the money has already started to kind of trickle in on the Maria Oliveira side, which I found just a little bit interesting. Diana Belbita, she's kind of a fan favorite. Shout out my guy, Ben, Ben the Bane. He pulled everything, all the stops out, man. I was rooting for him. He never got that date, so I'm still hoping maybe one of these days we get it right. But Maria Oliveira was kind of she feels like a throwaway a little bit for me, man. She lost on the Contender Series. Granted, it was to Marina Rodriguez, so, real high-level opponent there that she got KO'd in round 1 by. Goes off on the regional scene, gets a couple wins. She comes back, but she still hasn't overly impressed. She's 1-2 so far in her 3-fight tenure. Seems like she's willing to kind of get in there and scrap on the feet. The grappling is a little questionable. The cardio is a little questionable, but she's got a long, lanky build. She is vicious, man. Last fight, she was out there licking the blood off of her hands, BJ Penn style in the ring when she busted her opponent up. Diana Belbita has taken, almost, actually not almost, a little over a year off since her last fight with Gloria DePaula. She seems like she's got that raw physicality and talent and ability that we're looking for. Just hasn't quite been able to put it all back together. I'm hoping we see big improvements from Diana Belbita, but current form, it's hard to argue with Maria Oliveira being the favorite in this spot. What do you think, Marcel? Who wins this first fight of the night?
Yeah, man, I think it's a close fight, to be honest, man. Both girls haven't been really impressive in the UFC as of far, Maria got that win, the close fight against Gloria DePaula, right? Well, I think it was a fun scrap, For Diana Belbita, she got that win over Goldie, which I think was a close fight, They are really kind of in the same thing, not really being overly impressive in the UFC. I kind of feel that Maria is technically better on the feet, but I think Belbita might have more power, you know what I mean? I don't see this fight really hit the ground, to be honest. Both girls love to keep it standing. This is a typical girl fight that goes to a split decision, I would almost say, Belbita fights basically at home. She lives in Canada, right? I'm still picking Oliveira here. I think she wins the decision. I think it will be super close. Can go either way, but man, Oliveira for me here. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to a split decision, dude. This is a typical fight that goes to split decision.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, a little bit more volume on one side, a little harder shots on the other. That is a recipe for a split decision for sure. As a fan, and I think I'm pulling for Diana Belbita. I hope she kind of puts it all together and we can see some more from her. But one of these girls might just be getting their walking papers. You know, they're both in that position where one more loss could just be the end of them at this point. All right. That's your first fight of the night. I'm going to lean the other way with Diana Belbita, but really for no reason whatsoever. So don't look into that at all. Please don't. Next fight up, you've got David Dvorak taking on Steve Erceg. And this one is super interesting to me, Marcel, because this is a short notice fill-in. David Dvorak was supposed to be facing Matt Danger Schnell here on this card from what if I remember correctly. I'm sure you can correct me if I'm wrong on that one. So short notice fill in here from Erceg and big underdog line. However, we've already seen a decent amount of action come in on the Erceg side of things. He opened up like plus 350. So now that he's all the way down to plus 250-ish, people are liking then some Erceg, and I really didn't get it. I've been high on David Dvorak since he got to the UFC. 20-5, really well-rounded, physically strong, incredibly tough, man. I know he kind of got beat pillar to post by Manel Kopp, but Kopp finishes people in those situations. The fact that David was able to survive, even though he was on the ropes, could have been finished 2-3 different times, pushing through, making it to the scorecards, that just kind of speaks to the kind of toughness and durability that this guy's got. Very aggressive, forward pressure, love his hard chopping leg kicks, tight boxing stance, very heavy on his feet, sits down on his punches. He's got a real sneaky left hook. I love that thing. I was thinking, David all day in this spot. And then I looked into Steve. I didn't know who Steve was. Steve's a black belt, and apparently the UFC has been looking at this kid for some time. He was supposed to make his Dana White's Contender Series debut against Clayton Carpenter, and then that got that was supposed to be his UFC debut. He was scheduled for Dana White's Contender Series. COVID pulled that one. Then they were going to give him Clayton Carpenter in a UFC debut, skipping Dana White's Contender. That one got canceled. So it's been a minute. They've been trying to get Steve into the cage for a bit here. He's got a nice pawing lead hand, likes to measure that range a little bit. He's a little too flat-footed for me. He kind of walks in. He's hittable. His chin has really been on display, Marcel. Like, this guy, he's so hittable, but he's been super tough, hasn't really worn the shots poorly, kind of walks through his opponent's offense. You wonder if somebody at the UFC level is going to make him pay for that. But when he strikes back, he's got big power, and he's got a nasty submission offense on him. 6 wins by sub. His most notable over Shannon Ross, somebody that a lot of people were pretty excited about coming off the Contender Series. I want to say Steve is live here. I don't like the number. I'm still going to pick David to go ahead and get the win in this spot. But at the same time, it's not going to shock me if this kid pulls off the upset. What do you think here, Marcel?
Yeah, I'm actually picking the dog here, man. Yeah, I do.
All right.
I think, listen, man, I like Dvorak a lot. Now, don't get me wrong. I think he's a pretty decent fighter, And I'm going to tell you something crazy, maybe. I think that I would probably favor Dvorak over Schnell, man. But yeah. I don't pick him over Erceg. I think Erceg is really good on the ground, man. I think, listen, I think he gets an early finish, actually. I think he gets an early finish. I think he submits him. I think he gets the fight to the ground, and I think he's too slick for David. And he takes a submission. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, because always with the debuting UFC fighters, it's always a gamble how they are getting those octagon jitters. People saying it's not true, but you see all the time that it can be true. I give a good example, Daniel Zellhuber. Yeah, I think Dvorak is really legit, but if you look at him, how he fought in his last 2 fights, I'm not really confident in him, although how good is Steve Erceg in the UFC? I agree with you there. We don't know yet how good he is in the UFC. He has looked really good in outside of the UFC, and I think he can continue this, man. Yeah, I'm going with a submission first round. Maybe I'm crazy, but I've been called crazy before, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Hey, we like crazy here, Marcel. I can break the tinfoil hat out for you early on the show here. We got a big upset Marcel's calling for the sub. I like it, man. I like it. Let's see. I want to see what that number is. Obviously, late, short notice put together fight. They're not going to have the prop numbers out for us. I want to see what that submission number is, because that was where I felt like Dvorak had the most trouble, even against Beneil, almost got him in a pretty delicate spot there. I think that's Erceg's best path to victory, but I probably like violence in general in this spot, because like I mentioned, the way Erceg defends punches with his face, I think if he's going to do that at this level, it's not going to go well. And then if we do get into some kind of a brawl, he's obviously got that finished upside himself. So, yeah, give me an under in this spot. I'll look for violence. All right, everybody, we're kicking this thing off. Awesome. This is a fun fight. Blake Bilder taking on Kyle the Monster Nelson. And I feel really bad, Marcel, for Team Canada in general. They don't really have anybody who can carry the flag for them. And Kyle Nelson was one of these guys that was brought in, had a little upside. People were excited about him. He's got an exciting style, and he just has not panned out. He's coming off what was maybe the most embarrassing point deduction in UFC history. That draw. Do you remember the draw against Du Ho Choi? Like, I forgot the point deduction happened.
I mean, Conman Chris Toyoni took that point, right? I mean,
yes.
That was like the most stupid point deduction I ever saw. So, yeah.
They went back and they like slow-moed it to see like where the head clash was, and everybody was like, like you could hear the announcers trying to figure that one out. That Toyoni absolutely had money on Kyle Nelson. You cannot convince me otherwise. But I
have a different read. He just sucks. That's what I always say. He just sucks. That's my different read. Sorry, man, but that's all right.
That's fair.
I'm not that much of a punk normally, but Chris Toyoni sucks.
He kind of deserves it after the record that he's had, but that brings Kyle Nelson to 1-4-1 in his last 6 in the UFC. That's his entire UFC tenure anyway. That's a rough run, man. A lot of people would have been cut by now, and that's where I think they're just straight up throwing him to the wolves here against Blake Bilder. Kyle Nelson, really physically strong, big dude. He's got a big hook on him. If he can land the perfect shot, if he can just overpower you, especially, even someone like Du Ho Choi struggled with his size and his physicality, that's not going to be an issue with Blake Bilder. Bilder is an animal. This guy is built like a brick shit house. He's tough. He can wrestle. He's undefeated. He's got submission upside. He's a black belt. And I was listening to my guy, JHK. Shout out my guy, JHK. He was doing an interview with Blake Bilder. And last fight, when I broke Bilder down coming into the UFC, I picked him against Shane Young, and I talked about how the last name Bilder is perfect for him because he just cooks his opponents over the course of 15 minutes. He gets better the deeper the fight goes. And he slowed down so bad against Shane Young. I felt so stupid, Marcel. I was like, here, I'm telling all these people he's going to be the guy pulling away in round 3. And here he is huffing and puffing, hanging on for dear life for this decision. Apparently, he was like super jet lagged going into that fight. So I'm like, okay, like this all makes sense now. Last fight was the outlier. I'm going to stick to my guns. And I think Blake Bilder has exactly the perfect style to wreck Kyle's shit deep in this fight. He's got a history of getting finished after he gasses out in round 2 or round 3. And that's what I'm going for here, Marcel. I think Blake is going to handle this guy physically in the first round. And as Kyle fades, he'll be taken over. Give me like a round 2 or round 3. I guess maybe we should go with submission because that seems to be the way he likes to win. But I wouldn't be surprised if he like gets back control, flattens him out, and then just like pounds him into the canvas.
Yeah, man. I mean, very possible. I'm definitely also on Blake Bilder in this fight, man. I like to do it a lot. I kind of gotta say, man, he really surprised me, dude, against Alex Morgan on the Contender Series, man. I mean, not surprising that he won. I know he was underdog. I was not surprised that he won, but the way he did was very impressive, in my opinion. And the Shane Young fight, I was also on Blake Bilder in that one. And he did well until he kind of gassed in the third round. I agree with you. But still, I see much more upside in picking Blake Bilder than Kyle Nelson, man. I do think Kyle Nelson, I cannot trust him. He probably, if he listens to me, I was like, why the fuck he can't? Oh, can I say F? Can I say that? Or can
Have
I say
at
that?
it, man.
Oh,
Go for it.
oh, why the fuck he can't trust him? I don't give a fuck. He probably thinks, but yeah, I mean, I feel definitely better with Blake Bilder. I liked him his whole career. CFFC looked good there. Um, for me, this is pretty much one of my most confident picks on the card. I'm not picking a finish like you do, which is definitely possible, but I'm taking a unanimous decision for Blake Bilder here.
Okay. So right now, he's sitting as a minus 250 favorite, Marcel. I'm going to parlay him. Like, Blake Bilder is absolutely a parlay piece, in my opinion. I have no issues with that. I feel like he's one of the more solid favorites here on this card.
For sure.
And this feels like a step down to me. Like, it's not often that fighters will kind of get that step backwards. This feels like a spot where the UFC wants him to get the party going, right? Like, he should shine in this spot early on the card.
He gets Natalia Silva, we should say, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
She is like she's going from up to down. She's looking good, but she gets like not better opponents, but lesser opponents, pretty much.
Exactly. They're like, here, highlight reel, please.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what this feels like to me too. So yeah, I'm Blake Bilder. I don't have any bets locked in yet, but I'm telling you guys all, I'm gonna parlay Blake Bilder. He's gonna be tied up with somebody. I'm just not quite sure who just yet. The next fight up on the card here is going to be Aiemann Zahabi taking on Aoriqileng. And how could you possibly go to Canada without mentioning the Zahabi brothers? Training out of TriStar, 35 years old. Marcel, I don't know what the deal is. I thought Aiemann Zahabi was the little brother. I thought he was the younger brother. For some reason in my brain, he's like 27 or something. I didn't realize he was a 35-year-old 9-2 professional fighter. That definitely shifts kind of the way I feel about him coming here into this fight. He's 2 so far here in his last 4 here. Had that big upset against Draco Rodriguez and then got the win over Ricky Tercios. I don't read too far into either of those. He's kind of pot shoddy. He's pretty well-rounded. He can wrestle. He can grapple. He can box. He's all right. He's got decent power. He just seems kind of like the bar. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys that's like, you got to be able to beat this type of dude if you're going to hang around in the UFC. Aoriqileng, he's only 29 years old, so there's still some time for him to grow and improve, things like that. Super durable. He's been submitted twice, but he's never been knocked out. Has a lot of decision fights. He looks a lot better since moving up a weight class. Now that he's fighting up at 135 instead of at 125, it seems like that's a good move for him. But let's be honest, he fought Cameron Else and Jay Perrin in his last 2 fights, so it's not too tough for him to look good against that level of competition. Marcel, I think this fight is going to come down to one thing, and for me, that's the volume. I think Aoriqileng has more offense, and as long as he can survive the return fire from Aiemann Zahabi, I'm going to pick him to get a decision win. I don't think he finishes Zahabi because he doesn't finish, almost anybody at this level. So I think we're in for a 15-minute scrap, and Aori should edge it, in my opinion.
Yeah, the only possible way, of course, is that Aiemann has it very busy, but not only training, but also having a weekly podcast, the MMA Hour, which he has to do always.
He looks so much like Ariel, man. That's a good read. He looks exactly like Helwani.
Yeah, exactly. Aiemann Zahabi, he looked decent against Ricky Tercios last time out, and I thought Tercios looked really bad, and Aoriqileng, first 2 fights for the flyweight were really fun fights, I think, against Jeff Molina and against Cody Durden. We lost both. Got 2 wins after that on bantamweight against Cameron Else and against Jay Perrin. Like you said, man, not really like high-quality opponents maybe, but yeah, and I think they're also both not in the UFC anymore, actually. Aiemann Zahabi is like, he's decent. I think his basics are pretty good, but he's decent, but he doesn't have anything extra besides that he looks like Ariel. So it's difficult for me to pick here, I think it will be a close decision again, and I always take in consideration, and maybe I shouldn't do that, but I think I should. This fight is in Canada, right? So the favorite is Zahabi by the audience. And I think that it will be a really close fight, and I think the people cheer harder for Zahabi than they will for Aoriqileng. I take that in consideration. So I see another split decision, maybe. I go with Zahabi.
Dude, that's the very, very good point. This is UFC Canada, and he is a hometown boy, and he looks like Helwani. So if this thing's going to the cards, he will get that Chris Lee 30-27 pulling this thing his direction. So I don't mind that read whatsoever. Honestly, Marcel, this is the first fireball and popcorn fight of the night for me. There, I will be getting a drink. I will be grabbing a snack. I'm not expecting this fight to be overly entertaining, and I don't want my money anywhere near it. So I'm not betting this fight. I'm gonna pick. I never say his name right. Aoriqileng, I believe. But I'm not gonna be putting any money towards that. The split decision prop on DraftKings may actually not be a bad call. Just take the fight goes to split. Don't pick a side. All right. Next up, we've got Jasmine Jasudavicius, and she is taking on Miranda Maverick in some women's MMA up next. You love to see it. And I got to tell you, Marcel, they are testing me. They're testing me with this fight because I've said some just brutal things about Jasmine Jasudavicius. I have come on this podcast, and basically every time she's been put in the cage, I've said she is not good. Not at all. Not even a little. She's just big. She's a size bully. She's a weight bully. She needs to get in there and be able to overpower her opponents. She's 34 years old, so this is kind of maybe the final version of Jazz. I don't expect big leaps or changes in her game plan. The problem is, I've said the exact same thing about Miranda Maverick, except for one difference. She's 25. Miranda's still got some upside, but she's got the same exact profile. She fights out of Elevation Fight Team. She likes to push the pace. She's a strong grappler, but she has made some young fighter mistakes. She's fallen off the back. She's given up position. She's made fights a lot closer and hairier than they should have been. I mean, hell, Shanna Young was more competitive when they were on the feet in that fight, I think, than a lot of people expected. Miranda Maverick is so reliant on being the bigger, more physically stronger fighter that it's insane to me. And what's insane to me is this number. Miranda Maverick is a minus 320 favorite over somebody who is, let me just go ahead and pop this right back up for you guys to take a peek at. Someone who is 4 inches larger than her. So we're talking about two women who are extremely reliant on body locking each other or their opponent and dragging them to the ground and being stronger than them physically. And you're telling me the one who is a decent chunk shorter in what should just be a game of tug of war is the 3-1 favorite. I think I have to take a small flyer on Jasudavicius, Marcel. I don't like it. It makes me a little sick to my stomach. But if we're talking split decisions, this one's got split written all over it to me. Like, one of these girls is going to get on top and sit there for 2 minutes. Maybe they scramble a little bit. They might trade jabs. Miranda's awful at range. Jazz might actually have a striking advantage over her. This is going to be a 15-minute decision. Nobody's getting finished. And I think it's going to be close. I think I have to go with the underdog here, man.
That's my next pickup line, Clint. You're not good, but you're just big. I think that she really likes that. I think I got the beer in my face after that. But
I only say that on my show. I don't use that in person.
I mean, this is another difficult fight, I think, man. I mean, Jasudavicius, I remember when she came in the UFC for the Contender Series, she lost against Elise Reed, close fight. I actually think she should have won the fight. She got completely destroyed by Natalia Silva, I remember, man. That's what I really remember. And last time she did well against Gabriela Fernandez, but she was just a little bit stronger than her, I had a feeling. You know, if you look at Miranda Maverick, Shanna Young, she should have finished Shanna Young, man, but she really didn't look good in that fight, to be honest. She was better, but she didn't look good. The Barber fight she won, in my opinion, I think that was a bad decision, you know. And she basically in the UFC only lost to Blanchfield, in my opinion. And Blanchfield, that was a really bad loss for her because she got completely dominated in that fight, if I remember correctly. Maverick has a little bit more upside to me here, but I agree with you that Jasudavicius is bigger, and that might play a big factor in the fight. I still don't want to go against Maverick here, man. Although it's super difficult, I think Jasudavicius can win here as well. Still go for Maverick via unanimous decision, but I really see your point and can see it happening as well. So super close fight in my opinion. Again, I think this is a typical fight. After 30 seconds, you can see who's going to win this fight via decision.
Yes.
Yes. Like that,
The first time they clinch up, we're going to figure out who's stronger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And, if I could, Marcel, I want to throw one thing back at you that you used last fight. Jazz is Canadian.
Yeah, true.
So we've got some home soil advantage here on a big, fat underdog. Man, I just might have to. We'll see. I always tell everybody that you got to trust your balls, and every once in a while you need to sack up and take a bet that's an ugly, mangy dog that you don't want any part of, but it's the side, and that's. Oh, let's see if I've got the balls to get there with Jasudavicius this week. It's really tough when you have such a. And I'm sorry, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Such a low opinion of somebody. Like, I want to fade Jazz every chance I get. I think it's going to print money to bet against this woman. And here I am thinking, oh my God, like she might actually be live in this fight. But like, man, the Natalia Silva fight. What would Silva be against Miranda Maverick? Do you think we'd get a pick 'em?
No.
Because I'd make Silva like a 250 favorite.
Dude, I remember going into that fight, I was like, Jasudavicius, if she gets it to the ground, she might have a chance. But Natalia was better on the ground, dude, and on the feet, she had nothing to say against Natalia. You know what I mean? It was
She's so good.
Yeah, she's really good, and I kind of underestimated her in the beginning because she came from that broken arm injury, I think, if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, she's great. Really big fan of hers, but you know that.
Yeah, of course. We need to see more of her. Let's talk about her and not these two next time. Next up, we've got my boy. The action man is back, baby. Chris Curtis takes on Nassourdine Imavov in, maybe my pick for what should be. You know what? That's tough. I was going to say this should be fight of the night, but there's a couple fights coming up here that's going to give it a run for its money. Man, I mean, Marcel, I'll just lead with this. I'm such a big Chris Curtis fan. It's Curtis or pass for me, always, ever, twice on Sunday, because this guy has done nothing but come through as an underdog for us, backing him from a betting angle here. The problem is Imavov's a monster. This guy's huge. Like, Chris is a 170 pounder who's muscled up and uses that cardio and pace up at 185, doesn't need to cut as much weight. It's worked out real well for him. But Imavov is like a 205er doing that, cutting down to 185. This is going to be a big size difference in this spot, and that's concerning to me. Imavov is super light on his feet. He can, play backwards, backpedaling, good footwork, big lead left hook. He's kind of got the exact frame and fighting style to do what the Joker did to Chris Curtis. And that's the part that worries me. Chris Curtis, especially as an underdog, you bet on him when his opponent will come forward. If his opponent will meet him in the center and say, let's throw down, you always want Chris Curtis. But if you're getting somebody who's a little bit more technical, someone who's going to flow on you, someone who's going to move, that's where he has a hard time. He can't cut the cage off. He can't force those brawls. He can't rip the body the way that he wants to because they're mobile and they're out of range. That's what I'm worried that we have here. This whole thing comes down to game plan for me. If Nassourdine is going to car crash with Chris Curtis, I'm taking Chris Curtis. I think he can destroy the body of this big, tall man who sometimes has slowed down a little bit deeper in fights. But if Imavov is going to, be a big brain IQ fighter and dance around the outside and throw those kicks and get out of dodge, he probably wins a pretty boring 15-minute decision using that Joker blueprint that we saw. So I'm tempted, man. I'm tempted on Chris Curtis. I'm tempted on the round 3 KO because that seems to be how he gets things done. Maybe a live bet if he drops round 1 and they give us a juicier number going into round 2. And it looks like we're getting a little bit of that car crash fight that we want to see. So for now, I have not pulled the trigger. I'm going to say Chris Curtis absolutely can win this fight. I'm just not sure I want to put my money on him. What do you think about this one, Marcel?
So this fight actually was supposed to happen 3 or 4 years ago, in Aris 2. That was supposed to be in Belgium right before COVID. I was supposed to go to that event, and it got canceled. And now we have that fight like years later in the UFC, which is fun. Yeah, this fight, I'm looking forward to this one, actually. You know, I feel like Chris Curtis, he got that knockout power, as we all know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And with Imavov fades later in the rounds, man, I always feel.
Yeah.
You know, he did also against Strickland, while he had the full training camp and Strickland didn't. Although he won the 5th round, I think, if I remember correctly, in that fight. But still, he didn't look good if it comes to cardio. The Buckley fight, I remember in Paris, where he did well in the first 2 rounds and then faded in the 3rd round. And with Chris Curtis, he always kind of comes up a little bit slowly, you know, but after it, when he gets it going, he does really well. And don't forget how many takedowns Curtis has defended in his UFC career so far, man. I think only against Vieira he had already like 20 takedown defenses, which is crazy, you know. And Imavov maybe wants to try to take it to the ground. I think it will be a lot of standing. I think it goes to a decision, you know. I definitely think Curtis wins the 3rd round. I think Imavov starts strong, and I think Curtis takes over like around 1.5 round in. So we see another close decision here, but I think Curtis wins it. I think in Chris Curtis for a unanimous decision here, man.
I like it. I like it, Marcel. I like it a lot, man. That's kind of what I said about the Kelvin Gastelum fight last time. Is Kelvin wins round 1, Chris wins round 3. It all comes down to round 2, and that damn headbutt. You know, that
Yeah.
awful situation that Chris found himself on the opposite end of. That's what swayed the whole fight. I mean, it's gonna come down to round 2. If Chris can take over a little earlier in this one, I think he gets it. And like I said, with those body shots, he might get him out of there in round 3. But a decision in this spot would not surprise me one bit.
Clint, completely off topic. Last weekend, Alex Caceres, Daniel Pineda, last 10 seconds. That's a knockdown, or isn't that a knockdown?
I would say it's a knockdown.
Yeah, it's officially not as a knockdown. For me, that was a clear knockdown. So
Wow.
I just wanted to know.
Dude, you know what? I don't know who's doing the stats, but
Yeah,
they miss stuff like that all the time. Like we're not there yet, obviously, but in the main event, man, I was running back the tape on Beneil Dariush, and he gets floored by Drew Dober.
Yeah.
Dober is not credited for a knockdown.
That's crazy, man.
In round 2, before the finish comes, Drew knocks him on his ass, and there's no knockdown credited to Drew Dober.
Also, did you see that they called Karine Silva? They said originally they said knee bar, and now in UFC stats it's like a grounded Z-lock.
That's weird.
Yeah, you should check it. Grounded Z-lock. It's like, I think that's definitely the first ever in the UFC, a grounded Z-lock. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up. So I've only got blue belt experience in jiu-jitsu. Maybe there's an actual sub from that position that I'm just not aware of, because I would have thought it would have been some kind of a heel hook or a straight ankle lock or something like that did that. Weird. We got JB in the house. What's up, my guy? Shout out Ethan Hershey. Ethan Hershey, thank you very much for the donation, my friend. Definitely appreciate it. Keeping the lights on here at Pub Sports Radio. Everybody do me a favor. Smash the like button if you haven't already. We got 146 live viewers here in the show. And let's just go over a couple things here real quick before the next fight. As always, you guys know the primary sponsor here is Pub Sports Radio. If you want to win $100, every single Saturday, we have a pick'em contest on Pub Sports Radio. It is free to enter. All you have to do is beat the Pub Sports Radio personalities, pick your fighter, pick your method, and go all the way through the card, be the one with the top score at the end. And then we even award belts. If you look up here, you can see purple belt, white belt, brown belt. As you win points for winning contests and things like that, you get upgraded. Your boy's a brown belt. I've won a couple myself already. Looking for that black sooner than later. Next up, Spectation Sports. If you're looking for regional scene MMA, these guys have all of it. They got all the good shows. Attitude MMA coming up. Maverick MMA 23 coming up. Use promo code DIEHARD for 20% off of your subscription check them out. And then, of course, the Sharp app. I've been running with these guys. They've got all kinds of stats and info. And they've got the Sharp Action Report, which I think is my favorite thing. You can see what the sharp bettors are on. You can see what the public is on. You want to fade those types of plays. And right now they are running a special 75% off through the NBA Finals. So if you guys are interested in joining the Sharp app, now is probably your best option to do it. Last but not least, if you rocked with me on Dante Mays, you have earned the right to buy yourself a Trust Your Balls t-shirt. No, I'm just kidding. Guys, seriously, if you want to support me, the best two ways you can do it, hit the like button on this video or go ahead and rock some podcast merch. We've got these awesome new designs, the Trust Your Balls, the reinvented logo, stuff like that. If you guys want to do anything to support me, grab some merch for me. I just want to see the diehard MMA army grow. Thank you all very much for bearing with me through all that, and let's get into the next fight. Your boy, Eryk Anders taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. We've got another very closely lined fight here, Marcel. And I got to go ahead and get it right out of the way here. I'm a huge fan of Eryk Anders, just as a person. Like, he's such a cool dude. I've had some conversations with him in the DMs and stuff like that. When he fought, who was it? The dentist, when he fought Darren Stewart. I made a big old bet on him because he was criminally ranked as the underdog in that spot. And I made a big bet on him. I told him I'd buy him a beer. Unfortunately, that never happened. I still owe that to the guy. So I've got a little bit of attachment here that's, non-fighter breakdown type of orientation with Eryk Anders here. Really just like the guy. Want to see him do well. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot good to say about his UFC career trajectory. He is getting older. He's 36 years old. He's only got 2 wins, I think, in like his last 8. He's got the no contest with Darren Stewart. He's got the win over Darren Stewart when they ran that back. And then Kyle Dawkins, that knockout in his last fight, man, that's like the most fraudulent knockout you're ever going to see. Kyle Dawkins had just had, orbital surgery like a couple weeks prior to the fight. He's already a fighter who's relatively chinny to begin with. And then they had a massive clash of heads right before the finish actually happened. So, like, I'm happy Eryk got the win. I'm happy he got a big KO, but he's really only knocked out like the chinniest guys on the roster. Vinicius Moreira, that guy couldn't take a punch to save his life. And then you go back to the Tim Williams fight. That was a decision 99.9% of the time. He threw a head kick that nobody saw coming, and it just caught the guy at the right time. The thing they do with Eryk Anders is they kind of overstate that athleticism and that power. He is strong. Dude's a bear, and he's been working on his grappling. He's been doing a lot of contests and stuff like that, grappling contests, really working up. I believe he's a brown belt at this point. So the physical strength is something that really can't be understated, but the pop in his hands is something I feel like gets overblown a little bit. I don't expect Eryk Anders to be knocking out someone like Marc-Andre Barriault. He's got 1 KO loss. Yeah, he got subbed by Fluffy in round 3, but who doesn't get subbed by Fluffy in round 3, man? Like, that's the script. To me, I hate to say it, this is Marc-Andre Barriault all day. These guys are both very similar. They're very durable. The difference is going to be the volume again for me, man. I think Marc-Andre Barriault hits the gas pedal and never slows down. Whereas Eryk Anders, you can see him getting tired in round 2. And yeah, he can go 15 minutes, but he's one of these guys that has to dig deep. Like, he's got to get in there and be like, I'm exhausted, but I'm going to keep pushing anyway. That's not going to be enough for me in round 3 against Marc-Andre. If it's a close fight, if it's a tight fight, I think MMB is going to have more to offer deep in the 3rd round. So I'm going to pick him to go ahead and win here. What about you?
I remember posting Eryk Anders' first fight in the UFC against Rafael Natal. He DM'd me. He's like, "Can you please change my nickname?" Back then, I think it was Frankenstein, and it's now your boy. So he's like, "Hey, please change it." It's like, yeah, sure. What I think about this fight is not very positive. I think I said it is a perfect fight to take something to eat, to get something to drink, because I see a lot of cage. How do you say that? A lot of clinching against the cage in this fight. I don't think it's a really eventful fight at all. Gotta say that Marc-Andre Barriault's striking has been getting a little bit better since he went to Killcliff, and he partially trains there as well now. Eryk Anders, He's decent, but the thing with Eryk Anderson is he can sometimes look like a world beater, and then the next fight is completely off. You know what I mean? I always remember that fight against Khalil Roundtree, where I was like, oh, maybe he can do some work there. I got completely outclassed in that fight. Yeah, such a difficult this one. It's maybe not difficult because I'm pretty sure on Barriault, but I don't think it's a beautiful fight. You know what I mean? I think we will see a lot of clinching against the cage, punching there. I think it will be like a grueling 15-minute battle, and I think Barriault wins the fight. But I would never put this fight as the main card opener, to be really honest. You know, and that's no disrespect to either guy, but that's how I feel about it.
I agree. I completely agree. This one is going to be a slog. It's not going to be pretty. I could see both guys getting, maybe rocked a little bit hurt, but I don't think either of them has the power to put the other one down. So I'm with you, man. I think it's a 15-minute decision. I think they go back and forth. They end up on the cage. They take a breather, and it's just going to be the hometown boy, Canada's own Power Bar, edging it out. I'm right there with you. I think of the Canadian fighters, Marc-Andre Barriault is one of the few who's actually like carrying the flag at this point. He's doing some good things. And he's 3 years younger. The other thing I want to mention, you talked about him training over at Killcliff. That's a great spot for him. Eryk apparently is no longer at Fight Ready. I believe he's actually working with the lab for this fight, which is not a bad gym. Don't get me wrong. And he's training with a guy like Jared Cannonier over there. Like, I love to, I don't want to besmirch the lab whatsoever. But I knew what I got from Eryk Anders at Fight Ready, and I felt like he was going the right direction and improving. Now that he's switching camps for some stuff that's out of his control, it sounds like there was some like management drama or something like that caused it. Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to get from him at a new gym. You know what I mean? That's the kind of spot that I want to be a little bit careful with.
Kind of a crazy subject, right? With the gym. And with the management and that kind of stuff, what I've been hearing.
Yeah. You never want to step too much into that.
Yeah.
All right. And shout out my guy. I know I highlighted the comment here, but my guy VB in the chat, legitimately one of the absolute sharpest people who bets this sport. If you guys haven't checked out VB or know who he is, give him a follow on Twitter. He's got a show of his own. He does good stuff. And his run this year, you think my run's been spectacular. You should check out VB's. This man has been absolutely incredible. And he's we're going to get him on the show one of these days. One of these days. It's going to happen. Next fight on the docket here, we've got none other than Dan Ige taking on Nate the Train Landwehr, who's just absolutely taken over the MMA betting community. We cannot get enough of Nate the Train after his last couple of fights, man. I can't blame anybody for wanting to roll the dice and take a dog shot on Nate the Train in this spot, Marcel, because he's come through. Like, he was a minus 270 over Austin Lingo in his last fight, sure, but he was plus 270 against David Onama. He was plus 300 over Ludovic Klein. Like, this guy has done nothing but consistently just smash those big underdog spots. When you give him that kind of a line, he will fight for your money. Insane aggression, insane pace. But this is a big step up in competition, in my opinion. Like, Klein is a guy who's kind of hanging on for life in the UFC. Onama, we all thought this guy was something to write home about. We're not sure at this point now, especially with everything going on with Krause and Glory MMA. Lingo, nobody's really all that excited about Lingo. So, like, this, jumping from that circle of fighters to this circle of fighter, Dan Ige, he's got 6 losses, man, all by decision, and to the who's who. Like, you have to be elite to beat Dan Ige in this division. He is maybe the best example of a gatekeeper that I can think of in a good way, because you're a legitimate badass if you can get by Dan Ige. And every one of these fights that he loses, he is in. Like, he hurts his opponents a couple of times. He makes sure he's competitive. His boxing is super slick when he sits down on those punches. He's actually got some pop in those hands. He hits really hard, and the durability is off the charts. Never been finished. I had a buddy of mine who I respect tell me that Nate Landwehr is going to break Danny Ige, and I'm like, really? Like, Cater couldn't do it. I'm not betting on anybody to break Danny Ige. I would be looking for the reach and say Nate Landwehr by decision if you're gonna bet the Nate Landwehr side, because I personally am gonna just think Dan Ige doesn't get finished until I see it happen. But I'm picking Dan Ige, Marcel. This guy might be the guy I parlay up with Blake Bilder from earlier in the evening, because he's got that right price tag, minus 245. I think he's just going to be too slick for Nate Landwehr. I think he'll pick his shots. I think he's got the heavier hands. And then when this thing turns into a brawl, because inevitably it always does when Nate Landwehr is fighting, I think Dan Ige will find that moment and catch him with a big hook or something. I actually think Ige will come out.
Yeah, okay. You're froze for me. Maybe it's my connection. Yeah, man. I mean, I have a pretty stellar thought about this fight. Nate Landwehr, I underestimated him so many times against Ludovic Klein. I was sure Klein was going to win that fight, and I was so wrong. Then against Onama, close, or I thought that would have been a close fight, and it went close at a certain moment, but was a great fight, one of the better fights of last year. But man, Dan Ige, he got 3 losses in a row, but against very good fighters, came back in January, knocked out Damon Jackson, looked good. And I think Nate Landwehr is a very fun fighter, but he's super wild, dude. And Dan Ige picks his shots, is sharp, and he throws to kill you, you know what I mean? But he throws with accuracy. So the thing is, if Nate Landwehr comes in wild, and I think he goes in wild because he wants to get the finish, he wants to overpower Dan Ige, I think Dan Ige will clip him and knock him out early in the fight. So for me, Dan Ige KO first round.
Let's go. All right. You and me are on the same page, man. Absolutely on the same page here. Love to hear that. I think last fight for Dan Ige, that was a y'all must have forgot spot, man. He came out and took care of Damon Jackson. And I think it's kind of the same thing here. If you're not top 5, Dan Ige's knocking you out. That's kind of how I see this thing going. So I'm going to pick Dan Ige here to win. Glad you're with me, Marcel. Everybody do me a favor. We're breaking down UFC 289 for you. I'm with my guy, Big Marcel, and he's putting in double duty. He's hanging on for life over there after doing a full show already before he joined us. So support the man. If you're not already following him on social media for fight announcements, what are you doing with your life? So make sure you go support our guy, Big Marcel, and let's get these last couple of fights taken care of, man. We're showcasing Team Canada here one last time for these final fights. Mike Malott is a -210 favorite over Adam Fugitt. We have got the 31-year-old Mike Malott taking on the 34-year-old Fugitt. And, Marcel, I'm just going to wait. Because right now, Mr. Malott is a +180 underdog. And he opened up +170, I think. So the line's already moving towards Mike Malott. You guys already know where I'm going with this. I have been waiting. I've been waiting to fade Mike Malott since he made it to the UFC. He's got big power. He's got a decent offensive grappling game on him. But Marcel, the guy, does not like getting hit. Look, he is chinny. This man, every time he gets touched, he decides he don't want to fight no more. He runs away from his opponents. Hell, Mickey Gall had this guy backing up and running for his life when they fought in that fight before he caught him with that big overhand. And then when he fought Johan Lainez, one shot, and he was like, nope, we're shooting for a takedown here. Well, let me tell you guys, Adam Fugitt is incredibly skilled. He's incredibly well-rounded, and he's very underrated. He's got all kinds of different abilities to trip and drag and get his opponents to the floor, where he's got a college wrestling background, and then he transitioned into jiu-jitsu. Unless I'm mistaken, Adam Fugitt is a BJJ brown belt, so very, very skilled on the mat himself. And this guy is a junkyard dog on the feet, Marcel. If you want to get into a battle, if you want to get into a war, Fugitt ain't going nowhere. He's willing to throw and trade with you. He filled in on short notice against Michael Morales, somebody who we're all very, very excited about. And people thought Morales was going to punch this guy out in the first round. Adam Fugitt put him through the ringer. Like, Michael Morales had to dig deep in that fight and finally caught him in round 3. That was a TKO, by the way. He got dropped. The ref saved him. Probably would have been a KO, but it's not like he even went all the way out. And Michael Morales is fast. I know Mike Malott hits hard. If he connects right, he can put Fugitt down. But if he doesn't land that first shot, I think Fugitt's actually going to turn the tables on him. I'm picking Fugitt to get the win. I think he's going to end Mike Malott, derail this hype train coming on Saturday. Give me the dog, man. And on top of that, give me that by finish, Marcel. I'm picking Fugitt.
That's beautiful, man. I'm completely on the opposite side, so that's always fun. I think you definitely have a point, man. I think Fugitt is very underrated. Um, I think he did pretty well against Morales early in that fight, and he took that fight on very short notice, and he got finished, but he did well. And against, what's his name, Kinoshita, right, earlier this year.
Yep.
Very good win. Very good win. And he was, I think Kinoshita was like, everybody's like, this guy, most of the people, which I heard, was like, this guy going to absolutely get destroyed. Kinoshita gets the chance from the UFC to highlight himself. It didn't happen. So, right, I'm saying the right guy, Kinoshita was, right, against Fugitt, right?
Yeah. Kinoshita. That's the Asian Conor McGregor. They tried to call him leading up to that fight.
I always mix Kinoshita up with Nakamura, man. Nakamura's the guy fighting Fernie Garcia later. So, I still think you said, and I agree with that. If Mike Malott can't touch him first, will get it very difficult. But I think he can, man. That's the thing. I think he can. I think he can land that hard shot first. And I think if he does, he stops him early in the fight. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You never know, Fugitt has surprised me already many times, and you're high on him. So I might have to reconsider what I said, and have to go look deeper into this, because you kind of bring me like doubting myself. You're so sure about Fugitt, and I was kind of sure about Malott. So I'm still sticking with my initial pick of Malott. I think I will keep doing that as well. First round knockout I'm going with. But man, you kind of make me troubling thinking about myself about this pick, man. I'm gonna do some more research, man. Maybe I'm completely off. Well, we'll see. Wouldn't be the first time I'm completely off, so I'm kind of used to it.
I hear you. I mean, man, one of the big things for me is, Hakeem Dawodu. I love that guy. We all love some mean Hakeem, but he doesn't knock out anybody at the UFC level. He knocked out Mike Malott in the first round. Like, Hakeem has been a decision machine in the UFC. The only guy he knocked out was Hori, Yoshinori Hori. And
the part-time
I'm sorry, I'm not overly impressed by that particular knockout. Like, that's the only guy. So I just, I really think Mike Malott is chinnier than people are kind of understanding. And like you said, yeah, if he catches him early, round one, that KO is there. Mike Malott can absolutely win this by KO. But I think Fugitt is more live in the grappling department than people are giving him credit for. And if the first punch doesn't put him away, I think he'll be the one still swinging, and Mike Malott will be the one retreating, and that'll end up leading to his finish here, because he just kind of bites down on his mouthpiece, closes his eyes, and swings for the fences when he gets hurt. And that's not the kind of thing I think will catch Adam Fugitt. It worked, against Mickey Gall, who's a grappler who turned into a striker and was kind of a UFC throwaway at this point in his career. And then against Linus, he ate that big shot and said, nope, we're going to the ground. So I just think Fugitt's super live in this spot. We'll see what happens.
If you have to pick like a percentage, how do you share it between the two? How sure you are?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, man, I think it's like maybe a 55-45 type of thing.
Okay.
I just think,
still close.
I think Mike's too big of a favorite.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. Little dissension here. You love to see it. Some disagreement. My guy Wheezy saying the Dawodu fight was at 145. Now that Malott's up at 170, he should be more durable. And that's true, Wheezy. That's true. But I still just don't like the way he reacts to getting hit, especially when Gall's the one punching you in the face. You know what I mean? That's still too big of a red flag there for me. Co-main event, everybody. We've got Charles Dubanks Oliveira taking on Beneil Dariush. We've got Charles as a plus 130 underdog. Benny has gone all the way to being the favorite at minus 150 here. And it's kind of unnerving me just a little bit here, Marcel, because I thought I was going to be a little sneaky like in Benny Dariush in this fight. And it's just nothing but a flood of Dariush money, making him the minus 150 favorite. Honestly, man, we've gotten to the point where I think it's gone too far. I think if you got Beneil Dariush as a decent plus money underdog, that's probably where you want to be. That's probably the side, because Charles Oliveira has been clipped. He has been hurt. We know Benny's got that big power, but we've got to the point where I feel like the former champ is being just a little bit disrespected. I mean, Charles is the most prolific finisher in UFC history. The guy's submission game is off the charts. His wrestling is actually really good. He works well out of the body lock. He's extremely dangerous off his back. His Muay Thai in the clinch, the knees and elbows, like when he gets anywhere close to you, he's so dangerous in there, man. And it's really just at range where he doesn't quite have the game that you want him to have. Now, don't get me wrong. His straight punches and his kicks at range are phenomenal, but that seems to be where he gets clipped. Like that's where Islam Makhachev hit him with a big hand and knocked him down, sat him down, got him in the choke. That can happen here. Benny could catch him, absolutely. But if Benny doesn't catch him, we've seen Benny kind of slow down. And I know he's on this ridiculous, insane run right now. But let's not forget that, like, he got submitted by Chiesa. He got knocked out by Alexander Hernandez. Benny is incredibly good. He's very tough. He's very well-rounded. He's deserved a title shot probably for a long time. But he's also not invincible. And that's where I think we've swayed too far from God's light, Marcel. Everyone is just piling on the Benny side here after seeing Charles finally lose. Everyone wanted Charles to lose for like 4 fights in a row. Kept saying Chandler's going to do it. Poirier is going to do it. Gaethje's going to do it. Finally, Islam does it, and he's the champion. And everyone thinks that Benny's just going to do it to him again. I think I have to bet Charles Oliveira. I'm going to wait and see how far this line goes, because if I can get plus 150 on Charlie O, I'll take it. I'll take plus 130 right now. But if they're going to give me a better number, I'll wait and see where that goes. I think I'm going to be on the Charles Oliveira side, Marcel. What about you?
Yeah, you saw in the picture you showed that Charles Oliveira looked pretty pissed that he was the underdog in the fight. Yeah, that one exactly. I mean, I think Oliveira's best chance, how crazy that sounds, is stand-up against Dariush, man. I think he's better there, man. Maybe many people don't agree with me, but I think he is, you know. And on the ground, I know, listen, man, his ground skills are amazing, you know, but Dariush grappling is really good in my opinion. And I have actually a strong feeling for Dariush here, man. And for some reason, I was kind of surprised, dude, that Dariush was the favorite going into this one. Don't get me wrong. I was like, I'm going to pick Dariush. I'm picking the underdog here. But then you see, like, he's been just the favorite the whole damn time, you know. So I think Dariush gets the fight to the ground and controls him from top position. That's pretty much what I think. And Oliveira can work from his back, definitely. But I think that's what Dariush is going to do. You know, going to try to maybe finish him with ground and pound. That's not going to happen, I think. But I feel like Dariush is going to win the fight by unanimous decision. And it's not really a hit on Charles or anything. I think Dariush really good. You mentioned the fight with Chiesa and with Alexander Hernandez. I still think that Alexander Hernandez fight was a fluke, dude. The Chiesa one, but the Hernandez was. Yeah, I really feel that way. I always felt that way. And
was it the biggest fluke in MMA history, Marcel? Was that number one?
I don't know, but it's definitely in my top 5, I think. So,
it's got to be top 3. I mean, like that one, run that back. That never ends that way ever again.
No, I don't think so too. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm picking Dariush decision, man. I think we'll be, and it's actually a shame that it's not 5 rounds. You know, I think this is a great fight. It's a shame it's not 5 rounds. I would have put this as the main event, and I would put the title fight as the co-main event. Nah, you can't do that. I know that, but I'm much more intrigued in this one, to be honest. And yeah, looking forward to it. And the winner of this fight should 100% fight Islam Makhachev later this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has got to be a title eliminator. It's very exciting. I love this fight. It's going to be awesome to see where this one goes. Because, I mean, Beneil, like I mentioned, he's earned a title shot. He's been so good for so long. He could have gotten one some time ago. In fact, I think there's an argument to be made that Alexander Hernandez derailed his title hopes, right? Like, he probably would have got there sooner if that knockout doesn't happen. And then Charles Oliveira, having just lost his belt, if you go back and beat a surging contender like Benny, you got to give him his shot back, give him a crack to get his belt back. I love it. This top of the division we've got going right now is so exciting. It's a good time to be an MMA fan at 155.
By the way, MMA locker room, hands off Natalia Silva. That's all I have to say.
my guy over here's got dibs on Natalia Silva. All right, everybody, thank you one more time for being here with us today. We are talking about the main event for UFC 289, and it is Nunes taking on Aldana. And you know what, Marcel? I took my shot to fade Amanda Nunes against Juliana Pena, and I know people are going to think I'm insane. I was going to do it again in the rematch. I was absolutely going to go right back to Juliana Pena in the rematch because, and I actually want to see that fight. I know a lot of people are not interested in the Pena fight, but they're 1-1, man. You got to run it back. There's got to be the rubber match. They're 1-1. Both of them did what they needed to do. Let's see who's the best. I don't know, man. I'm in the minority there. I know that, but I very much think that Amanda Nunes' time is coming to a close. I could sit here all day and I could tell you guys all about the GOAT, but do I need to do that? We've all seen her fight. She's incredible. She's so fast. She hits so hard. Like the way she knocked out Chris Cyborg, that was ridiculous. Marcel, I laid the wood on Chris Cyborg that night. I thought no chance in hell that this smaller girl is going to come up and be able to take out Chris Cyborg. And then she flatlined her. I mean, what she's done has just been spectacular. But it's so hard to stay at the elite level. It's so hard to stay at the top and just keep doing it time and time and time again. What's she fighting for at this point? You know, she's got a family. I think they've got a second kid on the way. Like, I think Amanda Nunes is going to end up walking away sooner than later, and we just saw it happen with Shevchenko. She got caught. She, in this case, she got caught. She got her belt back. What's left? What do you need to do now? I just don't know that there's anything left for Amanda Nunes to do in this sport. Now, does that mean she's going to lose on Saturday? Not necessarily. The UFC is just plugging away in Mexico. Irene Aldana is the next one carrying the flag. Mexico has been on an incredible roll lately. And I like Aldana. I like her a lot. But she's a little old for a prospect. She's 35 years old herself. And yeah, maybe she wants it a little bit more than Nunes does at this point. But I'm not entirely sold on the fact that she's the one. I'm not laying this price tag on Amanda Nunes, Marcel. I'll tell you that much. It would be dog or pass from a betting perspective here for me. But I don't think Aldana's the right person to beat Amanda Nunes. If you want to stand and bang, that's what Amanda's best at. I think you need to grapple to like tire out Amanda Nunes to get that cardio and the nose issue coming back. I do think that's going to be what causes Amanda Nunes to kind of fail and flounder. That style actually works against Irene Aldana. Holly Holm, Raquel Pennington. Those are the types of fights that she loses, not the fights that she wins. So if you're going to stand and trade with Amanda, that could end very, very poorly for you. I'm going to say dog or pass from a betting perspective, but I'm going to pick Amanda to win the fight.
All right. The thing is, if you look into this fight, I think Aldana definitely has a puncher's chance. How disrespectful almost that sounds. You said you're really looking forward to the third fight against Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena. I'm one of these people who don't. I'm not happy with Pena getting injured, don't get me wrong, but I was happy we got a fresh matchup here, and I'm also questioning how much is Nunes still into this game. How much is he still into it? How long we will see her in the octagon? I have no idea. The thing is with Aldana is decent. She's good. But I have the feeling every time she gets a step up in competition, she doesn't show it. Remember the fight against Holly Holm where she pretty much got outstruck for 5 rounds. Didn't look good in that fight. The Macy Chiasson fight, the most recent fight, was 1-1 going into the third, and she was losing the third round until she got that up kick into the stomach of Chiasson, and she got the win there. For me, Nunes, I remember Nunes saying after the first fight against Pena that she still had problems with her after COVID. I didn't know if that was really the thing, but you can never know. You know what I mean? And she showed in the second fight that she was the better girl. I think only got in trouble one time with almost an arm bar, but beside that, she clearly won that fight. I'm picking Nunes here, man. I cannot go with Aldana. I cannot go with Aldana. As much as I would love to see Aldana get the win because I really like her and I think it would be super cool for Mexico to get a 4th belt, and it would look super bad on the UFC not going to Mexico with a pay-per-view this year. I think they really dropped the ball there, just as they dropped the ball with Zhang against Jan. But hey, who am I? Nunes. I think she takes unanimous decision. I think she wins. I think she's dominant, and I don't think she finishes her, but unanimous decision for Amanda Nunes, retaining the belt.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all, Marcel. I really don't. And I do love the improvements that we've seen from Aldana. In the Macy Chiasson fight, you can see that she's working with Grasso on that grappling game. She went for a lot of submissions in that fight. And frankly, Macy was lucky to have survived until the 3rd round, the way she went for those. But jiu-jitsu off your back is not going to work against Amanda Nunes. And like you said, yeah, she's got that puncher's chance on the feet. She hits hard. She's tall. She's long. If you're going to kickbox with her, you're definitely giving her an opportunity there. But I'm not going to ever take somebody striking against Nunes.
Yeah, I mean, you saw with Germaine de Randamie, for example. Amanda didn't want to strike with her because she was better in the striking department than Amanda. But Germaine de Randamie lacks the ground game overall, So, and that's what you have with the champion, Amanda is a smart fighter, She saw that, she just dragged her to the ground and she won the fight there. It's just smart, I don't think Amanda goes standing in front of Irene and takes a gamble that she can get clipped with a shot, So she keeps her distance, I think, and maybe takes it to the ground because she's better on the ground than Irene is. So, yeah, I cannot go with Aldana here.
Agreed, man. Agreed. We are on the same page here on the main event to go ahead and close out the show. We got my guy, Sean. Thank you very much for the donation, my friend. He's rocking with the big upset, Aldana by KO. I'd love to see it. Anytime one of these longtime reigning champions goes down, and especially in spectacular fashion, it's always a fun show. So I would love to see it, Sean. I will root for you there. And my guy guessed not too long ago, free UFC picks and the Stimmy shirt. You love to see it. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining the show. It was a bit of a quick one this evening. We fired on through this card. I actually think there's a couple of okay betting spots that we identified. And big shout out to my guy, Marcel, for joining us here on the stream tonight. Thank you for coming on and breaking down the show, my guy. Really appreciate you taking the time. And, if you want to tell the people anything you got coming up, promos, sponsors, shows, whatever, feel free to shout them out, man. Now's your chance.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Clint. I hope we can do it again. It was a lot of fun. My socials, Big Marcel24, Twitter, Instagram, Eurosport.nl. I work as a freelancer for writing articles. Those are in Dutch, but when it's a fight announcement, you guys know the name, so what does it matter if it's in Dutch? Got a podcast with Adam Martin every Monday. It's actually, I recorded it before this one. It's the MMA Outbreaker podcast. We do previews and recaps of UFC events. Got a podcast with Santiago, which is the Bellator Zone podcast, where we break down Bellator cards. And I have a podcast on Mondays as well with Dennis, who is like a colleague of mine at Eurosport, and with the former UFC and Pride fighter Gilbert Eiffel, also about UFC pretty much. But that's also in Dutch. So, thanks guys for having me. Thank you, Clint, especially you, man. I really fun talking to you finally, and I think it was a lot of fun, and I hope I can come back sometime.
Absolutely, man. We will definitely do it again. It's been fun having you on, Marcel. Appreciate you for sure. Thank you all for showing up and hanging out for the podcast tonight. Do us a favor. If you haven't hit the like button, hit that on your way out, please. And of course, we will be back a little bit later this week for the Total Takedown, the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In show, and it's pay-per-view time, baby. The Sharp Action Report will be coming to you on Friday. You guys are awesome. Let's absolutely keep crushing this year. Be good. If you're gambling on anything else, be careful in baseball, folks. It's degenerate season right now, but save the bullets, save the big bullets for the fight cards, because that's where we seem to just be thriving right now. Seriously, everybody, be good. Make your mama proud. Have a wonderful week. Let's roll.